I'm Rianna.
And I'm Juliette.
And we're not theologians.
Mark chapter 6. It chronicles, I think, what is one of the most bewildering days of Jesus' ministry. Okay, so the question that I had at the end of reading this chapter is what I'm gonna tell you in the beginning.
Okay.
And the question is, why did Jesus wait? Okay. So that's how, when I finished Mark chapter 6, that's the question that puzzled me, stuck with me.
Okay.
And we're not theologians.
We're not theologians.
So we can just put out a text in the Bible and then not answer it.
We don't have to do that.
Right?
There's no obligation.
There's no obligation. So
Where are we starting?
we're starting in verse 7.
Okay.
Okay. So this is just the backdrop. This is not
Okay.
actually the day. And it says, and he called the 12 to himself and began to send them out 2 by 2 and gave them power over unclean spirits. He commanded them to take nothing for their journey except a staff, no bag, no bread, no copper in their money belts, but to wear sandals and to put them on 2 tunics. And then he gives them authority over demons and all these kinds of things, gives them power. And then they go and do it. Okay? So that's very, very important. That happens. And then next thing we hear is about John the Baptist.
Right.
Okay? So we see that, okay, verse 24, we're talking about Herod's evil wife Herodias. Also, a couple, Herod and Herodias, that's sick.
The thing is, like, it wasn't even that they were meant to be together.
Right.
So it's like your names match, but you don't match.
Right. Because that was his sister-in-law, right?
Yes. It was the wife of his brother.
I think that's what made him think it's meant to be. But I digress.
That's our names. No, but it's even like, like,
it's a sign.
same name. It's a sign.
Sign.
She's married
She's married to
to a brother.
Yikes. And so, Herodias, this evil woman, she asks for the head of John the Baptist on a platter. And in verse
Which
26,
is so sick. I'm sorry, like, that's just so sick. Or like, what's your wish list for this year for Christmas? Or like,
John the Baptist.
a head
Yeah.
on a platter.
Also just like have him executed.
That's what I'm saying. You could be like, just kill him. But she's like, no, head on a platter. Which is,
It's a lot.
it's
a lot.
something.
And so, okay, so 26 says, and the king was exceedingly sorry, yet because of the oaths and because of those who sat with him, he did not want to refuse her. That is the request for the head of John the Baptist. Okay, and it says, immediately sent an executioner and commanded his head to be brought. And he went and beheaded him in prison, brought his head on a platter, and gave it to the girl, and the girl gave it to her mother. When his disciples heard of it, they came and took away his corpse and laid it in a tomb. Okay, so that's all of the backdrop. The disciples have been on a trip to do amazing things in the name of God, right? Their first like solo missionary trip without Jesus. In the midst of them being away from Jesus. Because we don't really have many stories of Jesus being alone without his disciples.
It's
like,
true.
He was preaching and teaching with his disciples wherever he went. But this was the first time Jesus was not with them, right? His closest friends for a really long time. And we know that John the Baptist's death kind of precedes Jesus' death. So this is like, they've been together for a while.
Right.
Okay. So this is the first time they sent them out alone. And then Jesus is just seeing them for the first time. Okay. And so that is the backdrop. So then in verse 30, this is the day, our day is starting. Now, okay. So it says, then the apostles gathered to Jesus and told him all things, both what they had done and what they had taught. And he said to them, come aside by yourselves to a deserted place and rest a while. For there were many coming and going, and they did not have time to eat. So they departed to a deserted place in the boat by themselves. Okay. So the first thing I have to note is like Jesus understands what we need all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I feel like sometimes, I don't know what you like, there's such a high that comes from being on a missionary trip or doing something really exciting. And you think like, oh, I can push, and I can do more. And the first thing that Jesus invites his disciples to do is to rest. Right, in this day.
And I feel like that's important because of the fact that I think that we have to remember that the strength that we have to do things never comes from ourselves. And often we see the results of like this trip. You know, we built this church, we've like planted a church, we've seen these baptisms, and it's like you're tempted to think that that was your work doing that. And I think being invited to rest is like resistance to that. It wasn't you, it was me. Rest so that I can recharge you, because it's only going to get done if I'm doing it in you.
Right. And I think it's interesting that they didn't say praise God for all these things. They just came and gave a report to Jesus of what they were doing, you know? So it doesn't say in this verse or these verses that Jesus knew that John was dead. I'd like to infer from Jesus' understanding of prophecy and where he knew his timeline was that he knew that John would die around this time. So I'm getting a sense also that Jesus, also being part of God, I just feel like he probably is aware to some degree. Now, I'm not a theologian, okay, so I don't really know, but I'd like to know that to some degree, John, obviously Jesus knew that John was in prison,
Yeah.
right? So I think he felt something, right? So when I was reading it and I was coming to the text, I'm like, not only are the disciples coming to rest themselves, but I think Jesus
needed that break.
Right, needed that break and wanted to be with them.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, this is grief. I mean, even when you, like, sense something's happening or things, like, you want to be with people who get you and who love you. That's the first instinct. I want to be with my friends. I've lost somebody. I want to be with people that love me.
And I think Jesus also, like, what he wanted to see is that the disciples were learning more of him. Because I think that's also something that Jesus struggled with throughout his life is being misunderstood. I don't know if really struggle with the word, but it's definitely something that he went through that caused him pain, at least in his adolescence. And so I wonder if in the back of Jesus's mind, he was wondering, like, do they get it now? Do they see the people that the way I see them? You know? Okay, and I only ask that because well, you'll see it in the upcoming verses. Okay, so they're by themselves in a deserted place, right? And then all of a sudden, in verse 33, it says, "But the multitude saw them departing, and many knew him, and ran there on foot from all the cities. They arrived before them and came together to him. And Jesus, when he came out, saw a great multitude and was moved with compassion for them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began to teach them many things." Okay, so this verse has one of my favorite phrases in the New Testament.
Yep.
We talked about this before, but the phrase being moved with compassion. Okay. So it comes from a word I can barely pronounce, like S1E3.
Period. Okay. But we're not theologians.
We're not theologians. You can look it up, okay?
That's from the word like movement compassion. That's one Greek word.
Correct.
Okay.
Right? And it means like from the gut. Compassion. So it's like when you see or when a mother hears her baby crying, or when you see a devastation that you can't quite like stomach, how could that happen? You get like a pain in your gut. You know, like your first heartbreak, you feel that in your gut. Or when that happens to your friend, you feel it in your gut. Okay?
Yeah.
So something is just like, pulling at you. That's what Jesus felt. He was moved with compassion. When his desire was to rest, to be away with his disciples, his priorities changed because he had this, like he saw sheep without a shepherd. Okay, so obviously, like, if you were to see an aimless thing of sheep, it might not affect us. Be like, oh my gosh, so cute. But I'm sure to a shepherd's eyes,
that's like, oh my goodness, they have no shepherd.
Right. Danger is
they're gonna die.
Yeah.
Because sheep actually are really ridiculous animals.
Sure.
They get into ridiculous situations. And as a shepherd, you would see a flock and be like, this is just a disaster.
Right.
Waiting to happen.
So I think that's what Jesus felt. You know, this imminent, upcoming pain for his people. And it moves him to preach and to teach. Okay? So he spends the whole day preaching and teaching, and his disciples said to him, "This is a deserted place, and already the hour is late." They say, "Send them away that they may go into the surrounding countries and villages and buy themselves bread, for they have nothing to eat."
Respectfully, I'm with the disciples. I'd be sick.
Okay, so
I'd be sick.
I was going to mention is also if we go back, in verse 31, it says, "For there are many coming and going, and they did not even have time to eat." So by the time they had gotten to the end of the day, they were beyond hungry.
That still haven't eaten.
Like the disciples came from, their missionary trip.
Right.
They saw Jesus for all of 2 seconds. And then Jesus spends the whole day preaching and teaching. And at the end of that, I was like, remember, like we didn't have time to eat ourselves. We came to give you a report, Jesus. Right. And now Jesus is starting his own missionary trip.
Right.
And also it's like, it's not like Jesus put them there in the deserted place. Right. Jesus said, "Come away with me into this deserted place and tell me all." Jesus knew. He knew. And there's nothing that's done, coincidentally. No. They're complaining. They're hungry.
And in their defense, Jesus has said, "Come away with me and rest."
Sure.
They're like, "Oh, great." Because you get back from a trip and you want to call your friend and tell them what's been going on. You're like, I'm going to tell them like what happened on my trip. Or you're like, you come home and you see your mom. You're like, I just want to tell her what's going on. And she's like, "Oh, I have to make a phone call. I've just come back from Timbuktu, babe. Sit down. Let's talk."
Right.
No, because let's talk. Like, I've come back to tell you what's going on. I want to share with you. And you're like, let's just like, hold up. I need to like check up on my auntie and my cousin. That's great. Could you not wait for it? Like, Because the disciples at this point, obviously, they still haven't gotten the name of Jesus. They still haven't fully grasped it. But it's like, you asked us to come away. Now you're preaching, and we're still hungry, and we haven't told you what happened.
Yeah, and so that's why I asked the question before. I was like, I wonder if Jesus sent them out alone so that maybe, like, maybe they would feel that move with compassion.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You
Because it
see
would be
people.
different if you come back home, get back to your mom gets a phone call and it's your auntie saying, look at what my funny baby did today.
Right.
Versus the auntie saying, we're in crisis.
Right.
Right? And that's what Jesus felt for his sheep. They were in crisis. John the Baptist has died. He's about to die. Things are getting real. And all the disciples can think about, is that they're hungry. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
It's like, okay, but let's think about this. Let's think about this.
No, let's.
Some of us go to mission trips, come back home, and they think about their own hunger.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Oh.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah. I think that's a very clear conclusion. I think that's the case. I think,
okay, close the Bible. We're done.
We're done. That's it. Finished. I think it's so easy to go to places where there's need, come back and only see your own need.
Right.
And Jesus' whole thing is no, see other people's need. Even if he rips you apart, even if it hurts you, feel my heart.
Yeah, I think for me personally, that has happened because like I've spent a lot of summers doing camping work. Love it. And if there's something so like you can feel Jesus' presence, you know that he's working through you. And then you come home and you're exhausted and you're tired. It's like it's hard to even show love to your parents or to your family. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, the mission ended, so I'm done being a missionary.
Right.
You know, we revert back into, I mean, not to quote C.S. Lewis, into having a need love, you know? And so I just find that so interesting.
Yeah.
You know, Jesus never had that kind of off. He's turning it off.
He was on all the time.
He was on
constantly.
All the time. It was never, ever
He would heal till he was tired. He'd be healing, and they were like, we got to go. They were like, he's like, I got to heal.
Right. I got to teach. So, okay, we're going back to the story. In verse 37, but he answered and said to them, you give them something to eat. And they said to him, shall we go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give them something to eat? I just want to stop right there.
Yes, please.
Okay, because again, I want to point out in chapter 6, verse 12, it says, so they went out and preached that people should repent. And they cast out demons and anointed with oil for many who were sick, and they healed them. Okay, they just came back from doing miracles, right?
And they're like, what are you going to feed these people?
Right.
What are you going to feed them with?
Right.
We don't have money. My guy, you're just casting out demons.
Right. People couldn't walk.
And they're walking now.
And then you anointed them. And yet, now is it because you're also hungry that you can't believe it? I don't know. It's like, why did you fail to see that Jesus can also help with the situation?
I feel like it's really easy to believe in miracles for others and not for yourself. Like when I pray for miracles for people, I think that the faith that I have for my friends is often more than the faith I have for myself. I pray for things that I think are impossible, but that are possible with God.
Yeah.
But with me, I'm like, if you could just maybe give me like a drop of water, you know, like I'm praying for like rivers in the desert and like, you know, floods where there's drought. And then when it's me, I'm like, I'm thirsty. Could I just have a cup of water? It's like, why have you prayed
I'm thirsty. Where am I going to find water to drink?
Even that.
Yeah.
Even that. And I think something about appropriating the power of God for yourself and not in the Simon the magician way, not in the like trying to buy it so that you can like use it for your own like gain. But in the sense of, do I believe this? Do I believe that he's willing to work the same that he's worked through me for me?
Yeah. You know, we were actually talking about this like a week ago where I was saying how like the appeal to be a Christian, to be used by God is not good enough. You know, it is not good enough to be a missionary and not have God inside you, to not believe that he's there for you.
Yeah.
It's not compelling even, you know, and there's a lot of like great modern missionaries, modern being like 50 years old.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Who did great things. And that was their whole testimony. It's like, look at these things that God has done through me, you know, but then it's like, but show me your prayer room, you know, show me what it was like to walk day by day, to be sustained by the one who is using you.
Yeah.
You know?
Because it's not, there are people who were martyred for their faith.
Mm.
But there are many who were never martyred. There are many who never had the converts or the numbers or the figures, and they died in obscurity. But their lives weren't wasted because they didn't, quote unquote, do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's all about knowing God, being known by Him, they knew Him. Their lives showed it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And it's funny that, like, I think it's easy to look up to people who we see them being used by God, and to think, what must that person be like, or, you know, what must it be like to be them, or I wonder how God feels about them, you know, not really knowing what's happening in their heart. And I feel like that can make us feel bad about ourselves. But clearly, people can do mighty things through God, and yet God can say, I never knew you.
Right.
You know?
Because that's a tragedy.
Yeah.
People will have done, they said, we cast out demons in your name. We did things for you. We advanced your kingdom. And He's like, I don't know your name. Me and you were never friends.
Yeah.
Your prayer closet was non-existent.
Yeah.
We never spoke.
Yeah. It's like, I wonder in that moment also, like, if they're really looking at Jesus, you know, not to be like too, I mean, literally looking at Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure that kind of compassion He had, or the tiredness He had, or like, there were times in the Bible where people knew, or Jesus looking at someone, they knew that He loved them, right? So you're looking Jesus dead in the eye, saying, how are we going to fix this? You know, I can't imagine what that might be like, to be in the presence of someone who loves so much, who cares so much, and to say, I don't know what I'm going to do about the situation, you know?
Because it is that, right? Shall we go and buy?
Right.
It feels almost like, I don't want to say sarcastic because I don't think it's given quite that far, but it's like,
It's bewildering.
like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, should we go and buy 100 denarii worth of bread? So it's almost like this incredulity of like, what do you want us to do?
Right.
We're hungry. We need an immediate answer now.
Yeah.
We're hungry.
It's definitely strange. Okay. So I feel like we should get back to the next. It says, Jesus in 37, you give them something to eat. And then they said, how are we going to do it? And in 38, He says, but He said to them, how many loaves do you have? Go and see. And when they found out, they said, 5 and 2 fish. Okay, I want to stop there because one of my favorite stories is, I think it's Pavel Goya. They were like, there was a group or congregation, and they're like, Pavel Goya, pray for us that God will perform a miracle so that we can help these people in the mission lands. And then he says, yes, but first, you all empty your pockets. Yikes.
Oh.
You know? Oh. It's like, yes, we will pray for God to perform a miracle, but first,
you do all that you can.
And they had more than enough in that room.
Oh.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
Oh.
sometimes we need to go and see, right? As Jesus says, what do you have right now that you can use? Go and see. And it's interesting to have, there was a mix of like the disciples' incredulity of like, how are we going to do this? We don't have enough. And then Jesus telling them, well, what do you have? Right? He's not saying, I'm not going to answer your prayer, or, I mean, I'm not going to help you, right? But you have to be able to try to go towards a solution. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, there has to be some like hand-in-hand work here.
Yeah. There's a verse in Psalms where it's like, I think it's Psalms 40 verse 1, where like David says, like, I cried unto the Lord and He delivered me out of like this pit, right? And I always used to picture that pit and think there were a lot of times in my life where I was in a pit and only looking downwards, and I couldn't see the hand that wanted to lift me out. And I think sometimes that's really, really easy to do, especially when you like, I come from a family where it's all about hard work and like we have to do so much just to get the little we have. So now that you have a lot, you feel like you don't feel that need to survive. You know, there's a little bit of an air of comfort. So when things do get hard, it's like, oh, I don't know what to do. And you won't look up, or you won't see that you can at least stand in the pit. You can still be in the pit, right? But at least stand, look up. Is there any ledges? Is there any notches? And it's hard.
Yeah.
You know?
I think there's something hard because we don't also want to recognize that we also do have agency. Like, there are many things that happen to us that we have no control over. Right?
Sure. I'll pause you right there. Because the multitude happened to the disciples. The deserted place happened to the disciples because Jesus was there.
Right.
You know, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things happen to us that we don't like.
Mm-hmm.
But when God's like, what's in your hand? What do you have? Like
Mm.
Moses style, what's in your hand, Moses? Moses like, I can't go. And he's like, what's in your hand? He's like, just a rod. And then God does miracles with that rod.
Right.
And I don't think we often recognize that, like, even though things happen to us, we still have agency to like do things in the midst of that. And even if it's a small thing,
Right.
there's 5 loaves and 2 fish.
Right.
It's small.
Yeah.
It's tiny actually. But it's something.
For 5,000, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even for 12.
Even for 12.
Even for 12. Like I think that's the kicker too, because you find the bread and you're like, this is even enough for us.
Mm.
We're not even going to eat with this. How on earth are you going to feed everybody with this?
Right.
But that's not what he asked you. He didn't ask you to give him a solution. He just asked you, what do you have?
Yeah, I think that can be intimidating with God, is to feel like what you have is not enough.
Yeah.
And that feeling of measuring up, I wonder, that must confuse God.
Like, but I'm so weak.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah.
I don't know who was asking about that.
Right. That was on the table.
Right.
Like,
I just asked you to bring it to me. Yeah. Okay. So he says, go and see. And then they find the 5 and 2 fish. And then he organizes the people, or he has the disciples organize the people, which is, I think, a very interesting thing, but we don't have time to get into that. And then he says, and when he had taken the 5 loaves, this is verse 41. He had taken the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. He looked up to heaven, blessed and broke the loaves, and gave them to disciples to set before them. And the 2 fish he divided among them all. So they all ate and were filled. And they took up 12 baskets full of fragments of the fish. Now those who had eaten the loaves were about 5,000 men. Okay, so Jesus, he prayed over the food. He asked, we don't know what he said, right? He blessed it and broke the loaves. And then we see the disciples get to be a front row audience to Jesus performing the miracle. Like, he passes the bread to them first for them to hand out. And I find that so loving, because what they brought to Jesus immediately multiplied. They got to see it. It's not like the food appeared in the little groups of 50s and 10s that they made. He said, no, I like touch the food that I've made for you. See that it's real. See that, that they did that. And then they, again, distributed, right? And everyone ate and they were filled. And there was even more collected.
Which is crazy.
Right. 12 specifically.
Which is funny, because it was like, they're like, there's enough food for us.
Right.
And now there's 12 baskets.
Right.
12 baskets.
I just wondered.
God is a God of detail.
God's a God of detail.
Because he could have been like, there's 3 for you to share.
Right.
Because it's baskets. You can split it. He said, then there's a basket for each of you.
Right. There's a basket enough for you to go home and tell your family, that this thing happened.
Yeah.
We were hungry all day. We didn't know what would happen. And look, I have a basket from 5 loaves and 2 fish. 5,000 people were fed. And if that weren't enough, there's baskets left over to share
for us.
With others,
Because I think it's so easy when you see God doing, and I think this is part of it too, like, you see God doing other things for others, and you're like, Lord, when will you do that for me? Like, you're feeding them, but I'm still hungry, because I probably would have felt away if I were the disciples. Jesus breaks the bread, gives you the fish and the bread, and he's like, hand it out. Hand it out? Well, wait, we came back from a mission trip.
Right. We didn't even have the time to get some.
Hello?
Yeah.
There wasn't even time enough at the stopover at the airport to grab some food. We had to run to the other plane.
Yeah.
Now you're like, feed the others.
Right.
But I think that's also a principle of, like, when you feed others, that Proverbs verse, right? That he who waters others is also watered himself. Them feeding others primarily, even if they were grumbling, because I imagine some of them probably were grumbling a little bit, right? At the end of it, there's not just you give out food for others, but there's a basket left for you.
Right. Yeah, that's such an important point, I think. Like, I think we also feel like God is not a God of abundance.
Yeah.
But it's like, he'll give you more than you ask or need.
A basket.
Right. Like, another reminder, because if I were a disciple, I would never eat those fish and loaves. They would be like in my home so that people can see and like, look, this is what Jesus did one day when we could not fathom where our food was going to come from. Jesus is he's so, I don't want to say funny, but he's so intentional about showing the disciples, I don't want to use you, only use you. Like, I want to be with you. I
Mhm.
care about you specifically beyond the mission field.
Well, that's how the passage you read began, right? Verse 7 says, he called the 12 to himself.
Mm,
To himself. It doesn't say he called them to mission or ministry or
right.
work. He calls them to himself. And I think if our calling does not begin with being called to Christ, we're doing it wrong.
Right.
Because how do you go out if you're not called to him first? I'm not called to the 1040 window. I'm not called to my neighbors. I'm not called to church. I'm called to God.
Right. I think, you brought up a really good point. And I feel bad that I skipped this verse in verse 10. And it says, in whatever place you enter a house, stay there till you depart from that place. And whoever will not receive you nor hear you when you depart from there, shake off the dust under your feet as a testimony against them. Assuredly, I say to you, it will be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. Like, Jesus was taking care of them because the people that don't like you, don't worry. I'll come for them.
I'll get them.
Yeah.
For real. For real. I got
I've told
them.
this before. It's like, I have a niece and a nephew. We have a little cousin. And it's like, if anyone did anything to those children, I'll go to jail.
I used to cuss people out on the trains because, so when I could travel with my little cousin, he was smaller than, he's taller than me, but that's not hard. But he would be in his own little world, walking in front of me, and grown men would bump into him. And me, 5'2" me, tiny little me, I'm cussing these grown men because can't you see this child? Are you blind?
Right.
Like, this was before Jesus, But I think that's the point. Like, when someone touches someone that you love, I'm gonna touch you.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna throw hands because I can't fight, but I'm gonna fight you somehow.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Exactly.
Who do you think you are?
So yeah, that changes everything, right? Because it's not like, then we make the misconception that God only wants to use me. But even as he said them out, he said, don't you worry.
I'm gonna get them.
I'm gonna get them.
Yeah.
This is like, obviously it's for the sheep, but like, I take care of my shepherds. Jesus takes care of his servants.
Come on.
Joseph chose to choose God in jail rather to be a prince of Egypt, I could say. That's incredible, right? Because God will take care of you no matter what. Okay, so now we come to kind of like the meat. I feel like this is like the pivot.
This is the bit. This is
like
the bit.
climax,
This
right?
is the bit.
We've seen they had a missionary trip. Amazing things happened. They wanted to give a full report to Jesus. They were supposed to rest with Jesus. Didn't get any rest. Jesus does one of the biggest miracles to date, right? Feeding the 5,000.
To this point, yeah.
Okay. He's moved with compassion. We don't want to forget that point, right?
Critical.
So critical. After this whole day, in other books of the Bible, it says the multitude wanted to crown him king.
Yeah.
Okay, but Mark doesn't focus on that. It says immediately. So we know this is on the same day. So verse 44, there were 5,000 men. Verse 45, it says immediately he made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side to Bethsaida while he sent the multitude away. So that is because the multitude was clamoring them, trying to crown him king. And in my Bible, I have a note where it says he put his disciples first. Now, the disciples must have been wanting also to crown him king.
Right.
Right. Because they didn't really get it.
No.
But also for their safety, physically, for their safety, spiritually, emotionally, mentally.
To get in that boat.
Yeah.
He said, go.
Yeah. He sends them away.
Go.
And I think as a disciple, this would have been hard to hear. It's like Jesus in the beginning of the day, you knew my needs, that we needed to spend time together alone. And then this multitude comes. That's fine. Jesus, I'm hungry. He feeds me. That's great. And now, Jesus, we want to crown you king. Look, we know that you have the power to cast out demons. We know that you have the power to feed a whole multitude of people.
Be king.
Like, we know what we need now. And Jesus
You
says,
as king.
no. Right. Jesus says, no, I'm sending you away. I can't imagine how they felt as they were being sent away. And then it says in verse 46, and when he had sent them away, he departed to the mountain to pray. Okay, so now we find that Jesus is alone again. For this time, the Bible lets us know what he's doing.
He's praying.
Right? He's praying. I'm sure he's praying, obviously, for God's will to be done. But I think he's really praying for his disciples. A lot. Because I think he knows how burnout can happen.
Mm.
And I'm really like extrapolating from the verse here. But I know that God knows my heart. I know that He knows how we serve and how we live. And so I'm sure He has some sort of trepidation or worry because the way the disciples reacted is that they didn't get it.
Mm.
You know, even after He had sent
The
them
whole
out for
day.
weeks,
Mhm.
you know, even after He spent the whole day with them, where He was like, this is what it's about, you know, they don't get it.
Yeah.
And so He's alone and He's praying. And verse 47 says, now when evening had come, the boat was in the middle of the sea, and He was alone on the land, which is interesting. Okay, so He departed to pray,
Mhm.
and then it reads again that He's not with them.
Yeah, He's gone.
Okay, later in the day, let's say this happened around 3 o'clock, and He sent them away. By 6 or 7 o'clock, He's still not with them. Okay, and then it says, then He saw them straining at rowing, for the wind was against them.
Mm.
Okay, and then it says, now about the 4th watch of the night, He came to them, walking on the sea. I just want to pause right there.
Yeah.
Okay, because it says, now when evening had come, the boat was in the middle of the sea, and He was alone on land. Then He saw them straining
watching them.
He's watching them,
Struggling.
watching them struggle. Somehow after the evening, a storm had come, and they're struggling at sea. Okay,
And this is the same Jesus, mind you, who was like, peace be still.
Mm.
He could have been like, I rebuke you, waves, stop for my brothers.
These are the same disciples that had seen a miracle,
Right.
that knew how to call in Jesus' name to heal people,
Right.
to cast out demons. Okay, so He's still alone. Now, I Googled this. The 4th watch of the night is around 3 a.m.
So He's watching them for hours.
He was watching them for so long. So
Hours.
long.
Fighting for their lives.
Fighting for their lives. Trained fishermen spent their lives out on the sea. Were struggling against the waves, right? I just want to talk about that for one moment, right?
Totally.
Because Jesus called them, you know, some of those fishermen say, I will make you fishers of men, right? And then they were doing it, right? They were being fishers of men. They had this missionary trip. They were passing out the bread from Jesus' miracle. And now, right at the apex of their expectations of what they think that their mission, what Jesus was meant to do, He had sent them away, and they were back where they were 4 years ago, on a ship in the middle of the sea at night. And all of a sudden, there's no Jesus. There's no miracle. There's no crowd. There's just them with 12 baskets of food, right? Fighting for their lives. I can't even imagine what is going through the disciples' heads at this moment.
No.
You know, we think we're so, let me not say we. Sometimes I think like, man, if I were a disciple, bro, I would know. You know, I would know Jesus not like that. I would know. I look at all like, I feel like, how can you lose heart so easily? Right? But then things happen to me.
And you're like, actually really easily.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, they're braver than me.
Yeah.
You know?
Hello.
They're braver than me. We don't, we, and it happens to the Israelites. I feel like the Israelites get a lot of slack in Old Testament as well. I'm like, that's not what it's like to walk all day. But I digress. You know, we think we're so much stronger than the
No,
people
it's true.
and
It's
we're
true.
not. We're not. We're used to fast and easy lives.
I think we wouldn't survive a day in the wilderness.
I think you and I couldn't have survived being hungry all day.
No. Right. No. That would have been like, we're out.
Yeah, that would have been.
This is too much.
Yeah.
We've done a lot. We've seen a lot of things. We've cast out demons.
Right.
My stomach is so in pain.
My
I can't even
extrovert
think.
batteries are done.
I'm done.
Yeah.
No more talking.
Yeah.
I'm gone. See y'all tomorrow.
Right.
For real.
The last thing I want to do is be around a multitude of people. Okay. So we're not giving the disciples enough credit.
Yeah.
That
it was a long day.
Hard.
They've been fighting. And, you know, Jesus, like you said, Jesus is intentional. He's intentional. He spent a whole day. He says, let's come away and rest. There's no rest. He's talking and preaching. They're like, you know. And then at the end of all of that, there's food. Praise the Lord, there's food. We're going to eat. Get in the boat. You got to go. And then when you think that it's done, oh, we're going to go home. You can rest, you know, then the storm picks up.
Let's talk about it. There's no rest in this life. I think that's something I've really struggled with.
Yes.
There was a season where
yes.
I remember I was praying one time and I just felt the Lord asking me, Juliette, what is it you wanted out of this season? And I said, Lord, quite frankly, I just want it to be easy. you know?
Come on.
I have a conviction that was like, that's just not gonna happen.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah. We want it to be easy,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And the love of comfort is such a
Oh, it's a god. It's
yeah,
a god. It will keep you.
dangerous thing. It'll keep you from doing the good that's right there next to you.
Because you're like, but I want it easy.
Right. But Lord, I don't have 200 denarii.
But Lord, I'm tired and hungry.
Right. I imagine that going back, like Jesus, we're like, how hard can do this, Jesus? He says, go and see. I don't want to go.
Hello, I've been walking all day. We just got back.
Can you show me where to walk?
I've been awake since 2 a.m. and I caught 4 flights across 3 time zones. I'm tired.
Go and look. Go and talk to more people.
tired.
And you know,
5,000 people
Right.
who got food.
I'm
I'm tired.
Jesus wants me to know if you have anything that we can use.
And then looking in their purses, you're thinking this is futile. Everyone's hungry.
Right.
We don't have anything.
Right.
5,000 people.
I don't know. We're not giving them enough credit.
They were tired. Them brothers
They were tired.
Stretched.
They were stretched thin, right? So now they've been battling this thing all night. After they've been stretched, they've had no sleep. And they were straining at rowing, for the wind was against them. Now, but the 4th of the night, he came to them, walking on the sea. And the Bible says,
and would have passed them by. That line's crazy. That line's crazy. I would have passed them by.
Yeah.
It's making me think about Jesus's MO when he goes to people. So like the road to Emmaus, right? He's walking with these people to Emmaus, Cleopas and his friend. They get to the city and it says that he was going to continue. And they're like, no, please, come stay with us. People often implore Jesus to come to their house. They're like, no, come with us. I mean, there's something about, it's not that Jesus is nonchalant at all. Jesus is the most nonchalant person that you'll literally ever meet in your life. I think it's that there's something about wanting him to turn back for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think about that because at the end of the day, as a woman, I just want whoever I marry to read my mind.
Period.
And that's
your prerogative, actually.
Unreasonable.
Right.
It's a fair expectation.
No.
To put on any person.
No, because they can't.
Yeah.
And they never will, and they won't do it well enough if they do.
I think the other thing is like, Jesus can't give me what you don't ask for.
He asks that all the time.
Yeah.
What do you want from me? What do you want me to do for you? I think we're afraid of that question because it's like, what do I want? I remember one time God asked me, like, what do you want? And I was terrified. I was like, what do you mean what do I want? I don't want anything that you don't. Like, I freaked out because the idea of having wants that I could tell him was like terrifying to me. What do you mean I have wants? Why should I have any wants? But we've been created with wants.
Yeah. I think the other scary thing is like, if you say what you want, you'll be wrong.
Yeah. Which is one of my biggest fears.
Yeah.
What do you want, Rihanna? What you want?
Example A, I want it to be easy. It's like, yeah, you want that. At what cost?
But I think even the ability to say what it is that we want, and trust God with that want, whether it's right or wrong,
right,
is still a mark of trust and gives him the ability to be like, okay, thank you for sharing. Like, kid, what do you want for dinner? Ice cream. Thank you so much for sharing what you wanted.
Right.
I am so glad that you could verbalize your desires to me.
Right.
You will be eating broccoli and pasta.
Yeah. And it's a good thing.
Yeah. It's actually better than ice cream. Well, that's not true. I love broccoli. I actually do love broccoli, and I think it's better than ice cream. But I do think that it's not always that easy to receive it like that.
Sure, when it's not what you want.
Correct.
I think for me, do you ever feel like there's been a moment where you felt like Jesus would have passed you by?
Yes.
Okay, girl.
If I hadn't implored him. I think there's been times when I have been walking with him and I have been like, where are you?
Yeah.
What are you doing? And I've had to call out to him. I've had to cry out to him. I know he's there, but it feels like you're walking past me. I have to cry out to you.
I said that the question at the end would be, why did Jesus wait? But I feel like a bigger question is like, why would he have passed them by? Like, as someone who loves them and was praying for them and was moved with compassion for sheep without a shepherd. Like, Why
Yeah.
why would Jesus, knowing their stature,
Knowing what
knowing
they were doing. Yeah.
their limits were, that they were stretched beyond belief, why would he have passed them by?
Maybe for a partly similar reason that we watch kids do dumb things knowing that they're gonna get hurt. I think that part of it is if I were to see my 3-year-old cousin climbing something that, he was gonna jump off of, and I was like, that's gonna be painful.
Mm,
There's no real risk to your life. There's no sharp objects. You're not gonna, like, be concussed and die or anything. But there is a risk to your, like,
mm,
comfort and, like, current levels of lack of pain, right? You're gonna be in a lot of pain. I have a choice. I can watch him and be like, "Get out from there," and, like, freak out and panic, and, he scampers down. Or I can watch him as he's observing every day, weighing up the cost, like, will I get hurt? Watch him jump, watch him get injured, watch him cry, and be like, "Okay, you now understand the physical ramifications of jumping off of a high object
mm.
onto the ground." Does that mean that I want to get hurt? No, it doesn't. I don't like seeing kids hurt, and I don't like seeing my loved ones hurt at all. But I think part of the developmental process with children especially is you have to get hurt to learn how to stop getting hurt.
Yeah, I see that, but at the same time, the disciples weren't doing anything reckless.
That's true.
They were trying to save their own lives. You know, they were in literal darkness, surrounded by, huge waves.
Mm.
And I'm sure not a very big boat, you know. And it's interesting, like, what their first reaction is when they
Mhm.
see someone on the water. And they said, when in verse 49, and when they saw him walking on the sea, they supposed it was a ghost and cried out, for they all saw him and were troubled, right? That's their immediate reaction. Because I think of what they're going through is like, I think I would be scared
Yeah.
if I saw someone walking on water. That's never happened before.
Yeah.
To immediately be scared, to immediately be troubled.
I want to push back a little bit. Okay, I think what they did was kind of reckless because they just wanted to crown Jesus king. And I
Okay.
think that is, in a sense, climbing up that pillar and running jump. It's like,
Mm.
you're going to get really hurt because he's going to die. There's no kingship.
But then, even if we use your thing, Jesus stops them
That's
and he
true.
sends them away,
That's true.
right? So at that point, it's not like they fought against him. He pushes the boat and they're gone,
They will. Yeah.
So even if they were like, oh man, like strategizing, like what we could do next, like they don't have time. Right.
You're in a boat.
You're in a boat.
There's a storm.
There's a storm.
Focus up.
Jesus is not there.
Focus up.
Yeah.
For real. Lock in.
So they're really, 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 really scared. And when I read this verse when I was 12, it was like, why isn't it their first thought to be like, of course Jesus is coming now? Why is it their first reaction to say it's a ghost?
Mm.
Like if I were them, would I be looking out for someone to save me?
Mm.
Or do I believe that nobody's coming? He's not going to help me
Mm.
because in this one way I specifically wanted, he didn't fulfill my desires.
That's what it is. Stop the storm. Why are you walking on water? Stop the storm.
Yeah.
And then when he arrives, it's like, who are you?
Right.
That's not what I need to do for me.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then, okay, so they have that reaction. He said, but immediately is also one of my favorite words. Like,
It's a great word.
in blue, all over
Mark loves it
the
immediately.
Gospels.
Mark loves
immediately. The last time we saw immediately was when Jesus immediately made his disciples get into the boat.
Yeah.
Okay. So now the next immediately was not to calm the storm, was not to come to them. It said immediately he talked with them and said to them, be of good cheer. Now I want us to pay very close attention to the next, what Jesus does.
Yeah.
Okay. So he talks with them, says, be of good cheer. Then he went up into the boat and the wind ceased. And they were greatly amazed in themselves beyond measure and were marveled. Jesus said, trust me, before he solved their problem. I think that's so interesting. And like in tandem with the storm stopping was Jesus coming into the boat.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not like we see the disciples asking him to calm the waves. Like their cry of help or their cry out in general was enough to say, I'm here. I'm with you. And the storm will stop. I think that's so important.
This is really important.
Because it comes back to, like, if you can help yourself, then Jesus can help you. But if you can't help yourself, Jesus can help you.
Yeah.
You know, I love that, like, the story of the man who had like 1,000 legion, right? He curses Jesus, and then Jesus heals him. And it's like his voice was being drowned out by the legion, of course. But Jesus saw him
Demons, yeah.
and healed him.
Yeah.
Right? The disciples were afraid. They wanted to live. I think even the desire to live is a desire for Jesus.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
was his life.
yeah, period. Point blank stop.
Yeah.
You know, he is life. And so he sees them, talks to them, and then he gets in the boat. I just think it's so fascinating.
I love what he says. Because normally
Mm.
Jesus thing is often like, have faith, do not be afraid. He
Mm.
starts, be of good cheer.
Mm.
They're in a boat, there's a storm. He's like, be happy, guys. Take courage. Be strong. And then he says, it is I. Do not be afraid. Be happy. I've arrived. Why are you afraid?
Mm.
And I don't even think happy is the word. Good cheer. I don't even think that would translate into like happy. Like, be happy.
Right.
Be of good cheer. Take courage.
Mm-hmm.
Guard yourselves. Be strong.
Rejoice, even.
Yeah. It's I. I'm here.
Do not be afraid. I think now it comes back to my question is, like, why did Jesus wait? You know, like, he had power over the winds from afar. He had power to help them while he was walking towards them. He had power to help them before he got into the boat. And yet he waits until he's with them, until it's been 3 a.m., you know, after they'd struggled all night, after they had the longest day of their lives, after the longest missionary trip of their lives, to help them, you know. I think now I'm seeing I wonder if they saw that, like, that Jesus is the point then. Like, it's not about the multitudes. It's not about the healing. It's not about the storm even. It's about whether or not I'm in the boat. Whether or not you trust that I'm gonna be with you. Even if you can't see it, even if your desires aren't met, even if you are physically hungry, even if you're on a mountaintop, do you believe that I'm with you there? You know? And well, the Bible tells us, right? It says, for they had not understood about the loaves because their hearts were hardened. So the Bible smushes these two stories together, right? Their hearts were hardened. They didn't understand why Jesus did his miracle, and now they've had the night on the sea. And like, I wonder, I mean, I still haven't fleshed that out of like, why does it say that then? Like, why say, hey, they were like straining all night, and Jesus does another miracle, but remember the loaves? They didn't understand that. And I'm like, what did they not understand? Well, they didn't understand Jesus' compassion. I think even after he saved them, they didn't understand his compassion. You know, they didn't understand like the love of someone, not just putting them first, but putting them first when it costs you everything. Or like, because one thing about me, if it costs me inconvenience even, I might be like, oh, hold on, you know, you mean have to go downstairs? You have to go downstairs to do something? Jesus is like, no, even if you feel like you've been punched in the gut, like, do you get that? Do you get how much I love you? Right? And their hearts were hardened. They could not see it. Yeah, I guess that's my point. It's like, you will never be happy as a Christian if you're only looking for how you're going to be used or how you can use God. Right? Because while the love of God required a transaction, right, of him giving Jesus for us, if you don't understand why he did it or what for he did it, you'll never get it. You'll never be happy and satisfied. I think so many people in our generation are so disappointed by Christianity when they become adults because I think they were given this, especially I think in the Adventist church, you want to think is like God wants to use you as a young person and like you can do big things and like faith can move mountains. Well, can faith soften your heart?
Oh,
Like, like why? I feel like there's not enough like
come on.
there's not enough sermons where like Jesus wants to save you. Period.
That's it.
Yeah, like is Jesus wants to save you so that you can.
Period. No period.
Period.
He wants to save you. Full stop.
Yeah. Not only he wants to save you, he just wants to love you.
He wants to know you.
He wants to know you. He wants you to know him.
Come on. Because how can you know him or him know you if your heart is hard?
Right.
How can I join into you as my friend, Juliet, if I'm not letting you in? How can I be like, I want to be your best friend if I won't tell you things about my life? It's not possible.
Yeah, and I think that's why Jesus had to pray. I think Jesus prayed for them that night that they would see him. Like when he walked by the sea, that they would say, "That's Jesus. He's come to save us." You know. And there are other times where Jesus prayed for his disciples, and they still didn't get it. You know. Yeah, it's the one thing that God can do is to force you to see him.
Yeah.
You know, he can give you overwhelming amounts of evidence that he's there for you, and he loves you. But if you're still thinking about the loaves,
Come on.
you'll never get it.
Come on.
Yeah.
I'm Rianna,
I'm Juliette.
and we're not theologians.